Hello, cosmic friends. Welcome to Interstellar Chats. This is Carlene Saelg with my co-hosts.
Kristin Anderson.
And
James.
James. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad it's been a hot minute since we've been doing some individual interviews. Now we are all back together again in our happy little co-hosting family.
It's fun. I missed you guys.
I've missed you too. So today we are going to talk about the Mandela Effect. This has been coming up in conversation and in other podcasts that I've been listening to, just sporadically about this Mandela Effect and how crazy and weird and thought-provoking it is. So, Kristin, why don't you tell us exactly what the Mandela Effect is?
Okay, so from what I understand, and I've only really just heard about this, that it had a name, that different people on the planet experience like significant cultural events completely different.
True.
Right? Is that basically what it is? And for me, when I recently heard about this only a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And they talked about JFK, some people say he's dead, some people say he's alive. And I was like, okay, but that's just a conspiracy theory, right? But he's somehow hidden somewhere alive. And then, of course, Mandela, right? Did he lead a nation or die in jail? And I was like, oh, people think he died in jail? I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, and this is really interesting, I was thinking about COVID. Because when COVID happened, right? When COVID happened and we were on lockdown and all the essential workers were being called in, I have friends who are, hospital workers and friends in New York who are hospital workers. And they would go into work and they'd be like, Kristin, it's a fucking hoax. The ER is empty. There's nobody in the hallways. The beds are all empty. Nobody's dying. There's no piles of bodies. It's a lie. And I heard that from a couple different people. And then I would hear from other people who worked in the hospital the exact opposite.
Me too.
There's body. I just got shivers all over my body when you said me too.
Me too, because I definitely heard both of those narratives.
Oh, there are bodies piled up, everybody's dying. And I was like, what? How, what is going on? Right?
It's
and this
all
is like
true. It's all true.
This is a perfect Mandela effect, right? And it's a perfect thing to talk about. What we were talking about earlier is the timeline jumping of Earth right now.
More, please.
Right?
More, please.
Right? Because we're shifting, and we're shifting out of one possible outcome into another, hopefully, right? And it depends on the collective consciousness of the people on planet. Like, do you believe there's piles of dead bodies, or do you believe it's empty and everyone's fine?
And here's something interesting.
That's going to determine our path.
Yes, but you and I, and even James, because James, I'm sure you have experienced both of those scenarios with empty ERs and full ERs during COVID.
Yeah.
But because of the frequency level that we're able to sustain, we can shift in and out of timelines. Whoa. So we can hear and see those narratives playing out and be like, wow, it's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is literally the collapse. That's the collapse, right? So you're absolutely right. Yes. You do get to choose which timeline you want to live on, whatever is your selected highest and best, right?
Yes. I mean, seriously, that blew my mind. I was like, wait, what?
Of course.
Yes. And for those of you out there, our lovely audience, if you are only experiencing one or the other, it's totally okay. And if you are going in and out of the timelines and you're experiencing what we are, that is okay too. It is really, truly just a matter of choosing what feels right and what path you want to go down. Because if we choose the one where everyone is dying and piling up, we're likely choosing the one that's full of fear, full of apprehension, full of all the negative stuff that is the possibilities that we don't really want to see or confront. But if you choose love and high frequency, you can see that, wow, it was a hoax. It was a drama trying to be played on humanity.
Yeah,
Right?
it's an option, you know, and that goes into that, I want to say, theory of multiple Earths, right? There are multiple Earths playing out at the same time.
But it's because, Carlene, you have chosen to be a being of service. So you've chosen the path of to be a being of service. So that is the timeline that you're on.
Mhm.
That's what you've chosen. Other people can choose differently. You know, there's a negative timeline as well. And so, you know, be
So I would
careful.
like to just shed a little light on that too, because when we choose either a path of service to others or a path that is a service to self, sometimes those that are still a bit asleep or in the fog may not even realize that they're choosing something that is more a path of service, of, you know what I'm saying? Service to themselves, because of programming and past frequency shifts that they may not even realize had taken place. And they're firmly on this path and they don't realize they can choose a better path. Right? So
they're not in command. They don't know that they have a choice.
They don't know
they just don't know that they have a choice. And that's, to me, that's really sad. I feel, you know, that's, you get compassion for those who are not aware yet, because they're just like bugs in the spider web, you know, they're stuck. They're like a fly in the web. And they're struggling. They're like, the spider's gonna eat me. And you're like,
it's all doom and gloom, right?
There is no web.
There is no spider.
You are the spider.
I love that analogy.
Wake up. Yeah.
It's like they're moving too slow. They're moving too slow in their frequency. That's what it seems like to me.
That's right. Because a higher frequency is faster. It is faster.
Eventually, we're not going to see them anymore.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be natural. I don't think it's going to be boom, all of a sudden we don't see people. I think the frequencies will naturally fall away. So the people that are in our lives will be just the people who are in our lives.
And you're talking about the shift into a unity consciousness, so to speak, where we are more expanded, more in our evolutionary path of becoming becoming greater expressions of self in a positive sense. Whereas those that are possibly not following a positive path are more negatively inclined.
Right.
That split that you're talking about, that's going to be natural, is, I don't know, it's an invisible line, right? So I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm not explaining that right.
I feel like when you make your choices in life, right? If you're service to self or service to others, that obviously is creating your path. That's part of manifesting, right? So you're co-creating,
right,
as you're making your choices, whether you're choosing to serve yourself or serve others. Now, we're all consciously choosing, but most of the planet is not consciously choosing. And they can be going service to self or service to others, like they're all over the place. They're sort of scrambled.
That's right.
And they're not making a choice, and they're all over the place. And that keeps their percentages of service to self or service to others kind of equalized, so that they're not making a shift and they're very confused they're not choosing one way or the other. They're lost.
I think that's the whole point, though, is that we're meant to be conscious of our thought process, because our thought process, us as being human, is so, we're just so wild with our thought process that we think terrible things or the worst scenario and don't pay attention to the fact that we're creator beings and that we can be pulling these things to ourselves. Or and just, really the small little tiny things that we do with our thought process. Every day I just notice that when I'm paying attention to my thoughts, I create more wisely in my life. That's what I see.
Being consciously aware. I love it. So, I want to make this distinction about the Mandela effect again, because I was just thinking when we talked about the pandemic and having being aware of both of those timelines, I am keenly aware of both the timelines where Nelson Mandela was concerned, because I remember him dying in jail and I remember him leading a nation.
Wow.
I totally remember him walking out of this jail cell into the limelight, which was his next phase of his life, where he led a nation out of apartheid, right? So I remember both of those again at that time. Do you? James, do you?
I don't remember that. I wasn't really paying attention to that.
No, I don't know if I was paying attention to that, but I do know this is what I was paying attention to was soap operas. And my soap operas are different. I went back in and rewatched some of them, and stuff didn't happen the same.
Oh, that's interesting. What soap opera were you watching? Because I was watching them too.
Well, this was
The Young and the Restless.
This is the weird, yes, but this is the
General
weird
Hospital.
thing. Is one of my friends said that, and I swear I looked this up and everything, but it's not true now. But okay,
you're not on camera, bud. There you are.
Okay, so anyways, he tells me that Susan Lucci's mother was what was her name? The comedian Phyllis Diller. That's what he told me. He said Phyllis Diller was Susan Lucci's mother. And I'm like, well, that is not true. That's completely not true, right? I swear I saw this. After Phyllis Diller died, I saw Susan Lucci on Regis and Kathy Lee talking about her being her mother. Then in years since, I looked it up and she's not related to her.
Wow.
I saw that. I totally saw that.
Wow, it's so interesting. I've experienced these things. We've experienced them. I just didn't know that it had a name.
Yeah.
I had no
And
idea.
I think a lot of people don't realize that it has a name for this effect, but it makes perfect sense when you think about all time happening simultaneously, and there not being a sense of a linear timeline, right? So if you can not only have different scenarios or different timelines, and time isn't what we think it is, then we can pick and choose from those timelines and create the one that we're living on right now, the timeline we're living on.
Yeah, you can choose. That reminds me of this theory that I heard once about half the people on the planet are not actually real. They're like fake people. They're players in your scene of your life.
Yes.
Which I find that really a fascinating thing to think about and ponder. Like, I wonder about that.
And there is a name for it, and I can't remember what it is right now, but it's something about there being soulless characters, right? They don't have a soul.
They're not ensouled.
Yeah, and there is definitely like a 3-letter initial name to what these people are, but they are what you're saying, characters
Right.
or background people.
Background.
Background people, okay?
Background.
Are we really talking about background people that are soulless? Is this a real thing?
I guess so. And the Truman Show called Earth. It could be. Why not? Could be.
Yeah. There is no science fiction.
That's, I mean,
We're going off on different tangents here now.
We're going
Right.
down the rabbit hole. That's what
but,
we're doing.
the truth is the Mandela effect is that all of the options are what are happening.
Mhm.
That's what the Mandela effect is that
Yes.
all of the options are happening.
And
so,
real for that person, because you can talk about certain things in history, whether you're talking about a Beatles song or you're talking about the Berenstain or the Berenstain Bears, right? So it's definitely what is your remembering, what is your memory telling you happened in your timeline, and is it the same as someone else's? We're just cognitively being aware that we're having different experiences.
yes. So maybe that's why some people have misunderstandings, is because they just flipped over into another timeline.
Right?
Right.
And
But
that
you
can cause,
totally said, no, you said.
that can cause a big argument.
Right.
And it has, especially with COVID, I would say, especially, I mean, families are like breaking apart. People are arguing and relationships are falling apart. But I find that really fascinating, because if those who are in service to others could accept and not argue that someone else has a whole different experience completely, and that it's real to them, that would elevate the consciousness of the planet.
100%.
Right.
We can even expand this discussion into people who are diagnosed with mental illness, schizophrenia. If they have different conversations with people that you can't see, doesn't mean it's not real. Could be real for them. How about the older folks who have dementia that are in and out of different timelines, in and out of different dimensions? They're seeing past loved ones. That's real for them.
Yeah.
And it does not mean that it's not happening because you aren't experiencing it while they are.
Right. I absolutely agree.
Agreed.
Right. So
That's
yay,
very cool.
we agree.
Yeah, they're seeing something, though. It's just
Absolutely.
mind-boggling, actually, to watch it happen, because my mother had dementia, and I would watch her watch someone walk up the hall, and she'd say, "Who is that man that just walked up the hall?" And I'm like, there was no one there. I mean, what am I, but
Yep. Because in
somebody
your
was.
reality, there was no one there.
Yeah, somebody was.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
Very cool.
So what
the
do
thing
you think?
is, do you think that we can consciously choose the Mandela effect through our thought process of which reality it is that we're wanting to take a ride on?
Well, do we have to label it?
I think you do choose. I think that's every choice is
I do too.
That's the co-creation of the choosing, for sure. I agree with that. For sure.
Yep. So what do you think, audience, cosmic friends? What do you think about the Mandela effect? We would love it if you would comment below and just tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you think about the Mandela effect, if you're experiencing the things we are, because we find this fascinating, and we're sure you do too.
Tell us, bodies or no bodies?
Yes. Or did Mandela walk out of jail or die in jail? How did it happen for you? Did you experience both like I did?
Right?
Right?
That's
So
interesting.
we would love to know. We would love to hear from you. Please also, this is me just kind of calling out to our friends and family to give us a like, subscribe to our podcast. We are growing. We are young. We probably still only have less than 60 people. So we would love to get to 100 in this month. Hopefully we will get
Yes.
there. Thank you for supporting us. Share it with all your friends. And we
Like,
will
share, subscribe.
Yeah, all the things.
Notifications.
all of the things. But we will end it here for today, and we will see you on the very next upcoming episode of Interstellar Chats. Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to